to Lex Reads. I actually want to talk about authors that I would automatically buy their books. They have impressed me so much where whenever they come out with something, I'm getting it. Now, it's crazy. When I was going through like my list, I was looking at books and authors that I really do enjoy their works, but I wouldn't just like automatically go out and buy one. For example, love Terry McMillan. I've read about 5 or 6 of her books. Her last book that she came out with, Not All Downhill From Here, I didn't automatically buy that when it came out. I actually waited for maybe a year and got it at a library sale for like $1. Let's just get started. I only have a handful amount, okay? A handful amount. So the first is, of course, Donna Hill. You guys have heard me talk about Donna Hill for, I think now 2 years when I discovered her, and was just, my mouth was agape because this author has over 20 books. This author does not get the praise and recognition as she should, and her work is unbelievable. The first book I read by her was Rhythms, and this is a take, I would say, if you like Vanishing Half, you will really like this book. And the crazy thing is, this book came out before Vanishing Half. This book came out in 2001. And you guys remember how they were making such a big phenomenon about that book, which, no shade, that book is fantastic, okay? I have 2 copies and probably will read it again. But it wasn't anything new, okay? And that story about passing has been going on for a long time. The fact that this came out in 2001 and it just wasn't, you know, a big phenomenon, but unbelievable. Next, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I always have to include Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie because when I got into reading, you guys know, African literature, it was like my introduction. And she was my introduction to true African literature, authentic African literature. And her stories are like no other. Her storytelling is fantastic. She knows how to capture a story. She knows how to, you know, she writes well-rounded characters. All her books are not the same. I have all of her books, including our nonfiction. I am waiting for her to come out with a fiction book, okay? About 3 years ago, she did a short story through Amazon. It was called Zikora. Oh my gosh, you guys. So good. I'm the type of person where I like physical books. I don't like books on no Kindle or nothing like that. But at one point it was only available on like a Kindle. Read it, and then when it came available for audio, bought it also. That's how much I love Chimamanda and her stories. And if I'm remembering correctly, when she was doing a read-along for Half of a Yellow Sun, they asked her about that story, and she said that it was going to continue. That was just the beginning, because if you have listened or read that story, it's a cliffhanger. She needs to hurry up and come out with something. I know she came out with a children's book. Love it. Okay, yeah, girl, thank you, but we need a fiction book. Next, of course, Bernice L. Mcfaden. Sugar was the first book I read by her, and I mean, it's Bernice L. Mcfaden. It's like mic drop. I read this recently back in November for the second time, and to revisit it in the age I am now in my 30s, I just had a different take on Sugar and on, you know, Pearl. If you have never read a Bernice L. Mcfaden book, I would say start with this. Even though my favorite is Praise Song for the Butterflies, but introduction, you have to start out with Sugar. Next, Sido Johnson. Now, my introduction to Sido Johnson actually was Yellow Wife. I know how much I rave about that book. I have 3 copies of that book, read it 3 times. This is her latest book that came out last year in February. Have 2 copies and read it twice, and I know her paperback is coming out next month, and I probably will get it. She's an author where obviously when she comes up with something, I'm getting it, but also to any reeditions I will be getting. That's how much I love her works. Now, I also have her contemporary fiction, which I have not read any of her contemporary fiction, which I need to, because just the way she writes historical fiction, unbelievable. If you want a good historical fiction, you got to pick up Sidiqua. Like, she's hands down my favorite when it comes to historical fiction. Also, she's hands down with being a favorite writer of mine. She's in like my top 5. Next is Dian Westone, who she's also a new author that I discovered last year. No, 2021. And ever since 2021, I have read a book by her each year. The last book I read by her was Tempest Rising, which was last year. And I have and I have Tumbling on my TBR for this year, and I cannot wait. Oh my goodness. I would say out of all her books so far, I really do like this one. This is Leaving Cecile Street, because with her, she gives you, oh, it's so hard to describe her works because they're just so perfect. She's also another writer where her works are different. Now, she is known for Tumbling, and I'm so excited to read that book because there is some tea and drama. Y'all know that's what I like. And her stories are always set in Philadelphia because she's from Philadelphia. And even like her minor characters are memorable. You know, she just knows how to tell a story. It's hard to describe, you guys. When you have two young girls, one gets caught up, gets pregnant, and has like a backdoor abortion, and the other one tries to save her, and you know, all of this. And their mothers, one that had the abortion, her mother is real like a church going woman, like, you know, holier than thou, and it's like your child messing around and got pregnant. But there's a backstory to her story where it's where your mouth is going to gape open. Next is His Only Wife by Peace Odoze Mindy. Now, she came out with her second novel last year, which was Night Bloom. I also did a reading vlog on that. And when I saw she came out with it, clearly I got it. This was her debut novel. Y'all know I always say African literature. If you're ever in a reading slump, pick up African literature. They know how to tell a story. They're just fantastic storytellers, and she was a prime example of that. You have a young woman named Afi. Afi comes from a lower class family, and her father has passed away, and it's just her and her mother. And so she agrees to marry a man that is really wealthy, well-to-do, and the day of the wedding, he does not show up. And that was a tradition in, you know, Ghana in some aspects. And then later they meet and they, you know, have their marriage. Although it was serious, there were some funny aspects to this book, and her dialogue, unbelievable. It was so realistic. You felt like when you were reading this book, you were talking to your mom, your sister, your cousin, your brother, your friend. Like, it was that good. And I would say her second book, Night Bloom, was really good too. This is a 5. Night Bloom is a 4.5. Next is Sabina Khan, Meet Me in Mumbai. This author is Indian, and this also is a YA author. Y'all know how I feel about YA, okay? It's a hit or miss because I be feeling like I'm too old to really get into them characters. You know, I like YA. You know, sometimes the decisions that they make be stupid, but I'm like, girl, you in your 30s, and these kids are kids. They're teenagers. Some are like, you know, preteens. So of course they're going to make stupid decisions. So once I got that out of my head in the Insta love, then I started liking them, but I still got to take them in doses. Now, this author, have read all of her books. She has 4 in total. And she started out with a bang. All of her books and all of her characters, they are going to include the LGBTQ plus community because she was inspired by her daughter. She has 2 daughters, and one of her and her oldest daughter, I believe, came out to her and her husband. And she said it was so difficult for her, and she didn't know if she was going to be accepted. And of course, her parents accepted her. But she realized, I know there are other Indian Muslim girls that are, you know, have to hide their sexuality because you will get ostracized. You also can get killed, you know, for being that way. And so she started writing these books and developing these characters. And you're going to see that in all of her works. And I love the way she does it. This one, I would say, out of all 4 of her books, are my favorite. This one came out in 2022. Her recent book came out in 2023, last year in July. Loved it also. But this one, you have 2 young girls. Well, you have 2 perspectives. You have a young girl named Asha. Asha is 18 years old. She lives in Illinois with her aunt and uncle. Her parents want her to finish out high school so she can go to university. She becomes pregnant, and she ends up hiding it from her parents, from her family, everything. She gives it away. And then in comes Myra. Myra is her birth daughter. And clearly Myra knows that she is adopted. She has 2 same-sex parents, 2 moms. And she just wants to know more about our culture. One day she finds a box, and it's a letter from her birth mother. This is not a spoiler. And she says, when you turn 18, if you find it in my heart, please come to Mumbai, which is a city in India, and we can reconnect. And you see how it goes. This was so good, you guys. Oh my goodness. so good. This is another book I had every emotion, okay? And it ended with closure. It ended realistically. I need to read this again. That's how good it was. And lastly, another African author, Where Two More. I saw this book on Sarah Jessica Parker's Instagram. Sarah Jessica Parker, you guys know Sarah Jessica from Sex and the City. She is an avid reader. And one thing I love about her, she highlights Black books, okay? And she had this book in her hand. It was a picture of it. She was walking down New York and she had this book. And when I saw the author's name, I said, I wonder, is that author African? And that was during the time where that's the only thing I was reading. And when I looked into it, snatched it up. This is a Liberian author named Where Two More. She'll Be King was her debut novel. You have 3 different characters. You have the first character named Bessa. Bessa was born on a cursed day. And she is immortal, so she cannot die. You have another character, Norman Aragon. He can vanish, I believe, yes. And then you have a third character, June Day. June Day, his body can't feel like lashes or, you know, anything, that he can't feel anything. The thing I love about this book, you get into the Liberian culture and the folk tales and also some of the, you know, proverbs and things like that. For example, when I say Bessa was born on a cursed day, there was an old woman that was very mean to people, very mean to her cat specifically. She is a widow, and she would treat that cat so badly that, you know, throw it across the room and everything. And she did that one day. And she threw that cat against that wall, and that cat died. They said one day that cat jumped up on the roof, and the roof collapsed and killed the woman. So because of that, they have a saying, don't hum a cats, which means don't be mean to cats because they will get you together, okay? And that's what happened. And she was born on that day when that house collapsed and killed the woman and the cat killed the woman. Bessa was born on that day. This book was one of my favorites back in 2019, I believe. And in 2020, she came out with her second book, actually was a memoir called The Dragons, the Giants, the Women. And that was talking about how her family fled because of the Liberian War. The way that she writes that is so beautiful. I cannot wait until she comes up with another book because I really did enjoy her fiction and also her nonfiction. And you guys know I'm not a nonfiction type of girl. I can kind of take a memoir if it's done right. And with her, I really did enjoy it. I honestly did. So yeah, guys, that is it when it comes to books by authors that I will automatically buy. As you can see, the list is short, but these books are mighty. The storytelling is mighty. The authors are mighty. If you're looking for a story that is entertaining, you're going to learn, you're going to have every emotion, I would pick these authors up because that's what they will do to you. So yeah, guys, that's all I have for you, and I'll be back with more Black books. Bye.